A Baltimore City police helicopter was forced to make an emergency landing tonight. City officials are preparing for the first snowfall of the new year. We'll show you what it's like to be evicted from your home in the middle of winter. And in sports, Chris Everett is upstaged by little Tracy Austin. I'm Ron Smith. For those stories and more, join me, Norm Lewis, and Vince Bagley next on Action News.
From Channel 11, Maryland's leading news station, this is Action News.
Good evening. I'm Ron Smith. Stan Stovall has the night off. After a warm, snowless December, winter's about to catch up with us and lay the snow on us. Norm Lewis is with us now for a preview of what's to come.
Well, Ron, we've been tracking the storm all evening, taking a look at it. The big problem that we're having with the storm right now is that it's still in its infancy. It's still strengthening and building. It's taking a little bit different track than what we were originally seeing with the storm. And actually, the real formation of it is going to be happening overnight. By tomorrow morning, of course, we'll have a real good handle on it. But I really think we're going to be getting a little bit more snow than what I originally anticipated. And if all things go correctly, we could have a pretty good-sized snowfall out of this.
Mm-hmm. Those storms that come from the south, they just seem to cause a lot of problems.
And the thing that the fact that it's still forming is what is worrying at the forecasters right now. But we're going to go right back downstairs as soon as I get through with you.
Start scratching the head?
No, we're going to get a few more facts, but we'll have all the details later.
Good. Thanks, Norm. See you then. The city is gearing itself up for the possibility, indeed the probability, of snow. Tonight, our Ron Leverton was at the Baltimore City Snow Emergency Center, from where he files this report.
Whether or not the winter storm that's headed in our direction develops into snow, heavy or light snow, the city of Baltimore is ready to go with its snow removal plan. The city's emergency control center is quiet at this hour, but should the snow develop, the city coordinators will be here round the clock, and they say they're ready.
Well, the salt is, like I said earlier, 32,000 tons stockpiled here in the city. The trucks are all ready to go, except for those that are already in the shop for some kind of repair, and we already have those posted on the board here.
Baltimore has more than 200 trucks ready to roll, with dozens more available through contractors if needed. The 300 people on alert are ready to plow and salt various routes through the city. This year, with the added advantage of two-way communications, something they didn't have last year. I remember one final thing, one very snowy day last February. There was a blackboard in this room that said, pray.
Well, we still use that. That's the Salt Institute's famous words. When you get down to a certain degree in temperature, just plow and pray.
And a lot of snow.
Well,
let's hope we
a lot
don't
of
see
temperature.
That yeah. Okay, this is Ron Leverton reporting from the city's Emergency Control Center in the Municipal Building.
Thank you, Ron. The pilot of Baltimore City Police helicopter had some anxious moments tonight, as did his observer. The copter, fondly called Foxtrot, was patrolling the inner harbor when pilot John Remy and Officer Donna Floyd heard a sound that bothered them. So they made a precautionary landing in the parking lot at South Baltimore General Hospital.
I just knew there was something wrong, but it wasn't. I didn't figure it was anything to be really afraid of. The aircraft was still functioning all right. I just wanted to find out what it was. You always get a little anxious, especially at night, whenever you hear strange noise.
And what was it again?
Oh, it was a wool cooler, where it fits on a cooling shroud around the engine. The fiberglass broke loose on the back edge of it and let it shake. And then the airflow, it, of course, rattled it real fast, and you could just feel it and hear it all throughout the aircraft.
Remy landed Foxtrot safely. No one was hurt, and the craft was taken by flatbed truck to the airport, where it will be examined and repaired. City officials are trying to deal with conditions on local streets. Each month they find more than 1,000 violations of the sanitation code. So, Councilman Mimi DePietro has proposed a resolution that would force everyone to put their trash in containers instead of in plastic bags that tend to attract rats.
We got to learn them people how to clean Baltimore City, and then Baltimore City's got to learn how to treat their people with respect, the way I want them treated, the way the resolution said they should be treated.
The full council is expected to pass the DePietro resolution on Monday. Every day there are real dramas that are played out on the streets of Baltimore, dramas that are tragedies for the people who must live through them. Tonight, our Jim Mustard tells us about a poor city woman and what it meant to her to be evicted.
The furniture was piled up outside of 1912 West Lombard Street. It represented the meager belongings of welfare recipient Leona Hamilton and her 16-year-old daughter. They had been evicted. The rent had been raised. Her welfare check, $190 a month. The new rent, $170. Suddenly, Mrs. Hamilton was on the street and no longer in her home of 9 years. On top of that, because of confusion between the welfare department and Mrs. Hamilton, she didn't get this month's welfare check. So what are you going to do?
I don't know. I've been trying to find help and all, but I can't get no help nowhere.
What do the welfare people say?
They said they can't help me.
What reasons?
They didn't give no reasons.
So what do you think you're going to do now?
I don't know what I'm going to do. Try and find another place and try and make out somehow. I don't know how.
The landlord says he had no choice. In order to keep the house in compliance with city codes and to make a reasonable profit, he had to evict Leona Hamilton and her daughter.
I hate it. It's hurt me, as I'm sure, more than it do her, and it's the last resort that I have.
Neighbors say Green evicted Leona Hamilton because she reported 50 housing code violations. Green says that's just not so. Whatever the reason, Mrs. Hamilton and her family don't live there anymore. Jim Mustard, Action News.
The state of Maryland was supposed to go to court tomorrow to file suit to get former Governor Marvin Mandel to return some furniture and other things he allegedly took from the governor's mansion. Instead, it will be filing 2 court actions because today Mandel filed his own suit in Anne Arundel County. He wants the court to rule that he owns 39 pieces of furniture. Why did he file today?
I've been constantly threatened, I shouldn't use the word, I guess, threatened. I've been constantly told, and that's a nicer way of saying it, that the state was going to go to court. The state is going to go to court. I'm going to be taken to court. Well, I think that the matter should be in court. So rather than just sit back and say, okay, you fellas determine how you want to play this game, I figured I might as well become part of it myself.
Tonight, State Attorney General Stephen Sachs says the state's going to file a countersuit against Mandel tomorrow, in addition to the suit to get the furniture back in the first place. And so it goes. A Baltimore man faces surgery tonight. 2 others are recovering from stab wounds, and the man who allegedly stabbed them all, Paul Von Hagel, well, he's free on bail. Pat Mokel says Von Hagel reportedly stabbed his 3 friends after taking the drug PCP.
Paul Von Hagel had been living in this home on South Dean Avenue with its owner, Alan Forsyth. According to Forsyth's wife, Von Hagel got into a fight in the living room about 2 a.m. The commotion woke her husband.
He said he was in bed and he heard a bunch of commotion going on, and he was trying to sleep because he had to go to work. So he said he'd come down, and Paul was beating on his girlfriend, and they said that he had taken the PCP. And then all of a sudden he started stabbing this other guy, and then he started on my husband. And he stabbed my husband 6 times.
The stabbings are yet another incident related to the drug PCP, a drug that has been linked with violent behavior.
I would say it's the most dangerous drug on the streets, more dangerous than heroin. PCP has a violence tendencies to it, like we were speaking about before. This is why it's more dangerous than any other drug. Of course, that's my personal opinion and what I've seen in the field.
PCP, or phencyclidine, is an illegal drug, an anesthetic that is usually sprayed on parsley leaves and smoked, or inhaled through the nose in powder form. It is dangerous because it can make some people violent and incredibly strong.
The police officer told me that he had picked the couch up and said, "I'm the hawk." And the police officer said he picked it up with one hand and threw it across the room.
Perhaps the most frightening thing about PCP is it appears it can have permanent effects. The drug can last in a person's body for weeks, causing him to have flashbacks. Sometimes those flashbacks recur for the rest of a person's life. And in some cases, it appears that PCP can be the final straw that trips a person over the fine line between sanity and insanity. There have been cases of PCP users who've become paranoid schizophrenics. Pat Mokel, Action News.
First, it was the Iranian hostage situation, and now the United States and 42 other nations are calling for an emergency United Nations Security Council session to discuss the Soviet military takeover in Afghanistan. The request comes from a coalition of Muslim, Third World, and Western nations. A formal meeting could begin as early as tomorrow afternoon. Well, as expected, the Soviet takeover in Afghanistan has prompted President Carter to ask the Senate to delay deliberations on the SALT II treaty with the Russians. Press Secretary Jody Powell says the president feels the Soviets gave him, Carter, no other choice.
While the president continues to believe that ratification of the SALT II treaty is in the national security interest of the United States, he has concluded that the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, in defiance of the United Nations Charter, has made consideration of the SALT II treaty inappropriate at this time.
And Jody Powell told reporters that the president now wants Congress to come up with legislation required to meet the crisis that could include renewing military aid to Pakistan, which borders Afghanistan. And Carter's decision received only favorable response from Capitol Hill.
Well, I think the president was just facing a political reality. The SALT process is temporarily paralyzed, if not dead.
On the Republican side, Senator Howard Baker, who's running for president, said it was the least that Carter could do.
We ought to make an issue of the inadequacy of the Carter foreign policy, because I think it's led this country to the place where the United States is perceived as being so weak that you can do anything to Uncle Sam and nothing ever happens in return. That ought to be an issue in this campaign, and I'm going to try to make it one.
The White House says it will not ask for debate on the treaty until it reviews the entire situation in Afghanistan, but the president says he still hopes the SALT II treaty can be revived. The Soviets responded quickly to the move, the government-run news agency accusing the U.S. of hypocrisy and accusing President Carter of being malicious and making bellicose and wicked charges. There were more demonstrations against the Soviet takeover today. In Istanbul, Turkey, one person died when security guards at the Soviet consulate there fired into a crowd trying to storm the embassy. While in Tehran, about 300 Afghan students tried to storm the Soviet embassy, but they were pushed back by Iranian troops. In Washington today, 8 persons were arrested after they allegedly trespassed on the grounds of the Iranian embassy. The 6 men and 2 women, members of a radical Christian group, were protesting the taking of the American hostages in Tehran. Iranian demonstrators mobbed UN Secretary General Kurt Waldheim today as he tried to visit the graves of those who died in the battle to oust the Shah of Iran. Later, Waldheim held a second meeting with Foreign Minister Gatspade and said some progress had been made in efforts to resolve the hostage situation. The trip may soon be over, however. The Ayatollah Khomeini has refused to meet with Waldheim, and it appears that no solution could be reached without such a meeting. Worries over Iran and Afghanistan sent the price of gold soaring through the $600 an ounce level today. The amazing price boost began in the morning hours in Hong Kong.
Hong Kong, Thursday morning. The day begins for international gold traders. On Wall Street, it's still Wednesday, but here in Hong Kong, halfway around the world, it's a new day. Gold prices are soaring to $613 an ounce. 6 hours later, Johannesburg, South Africa. Almost 3/4 of the non-communist world's gold comes from here. And as the price rises, South African officials count their profits. A pile of gold worth $10 million a month ago is worth $15 million today. An hour later, mid-morning in Paris, dealers try to find people willing to sell their gold, but hardly anybody will. Across the border in Zurich, after a 5-day holiday, prices shoot up an almost unbelievable $118 an ounce in one day to $635. London, 10 a.m., the gold rush is on. The morning fixing up $72, the afternoon up another $2. But no gold available for those who want to buy. Then, a leap across the Atlantic to Wall Street. Gold is up $49.50 an ounce, another huge jump. Record increases to record levels all over the world, well over $600. Ordinarily, we'd expect gold prices to go down after such a series of sharp increases. But all bets are off. Nothing like this has ever happened before, and no one is willing to guess how it will end. Mike Jensen, NBC News, New York.
The incredible gold rush is also being felt in Baltimore. Local gold dealers reported doing astronomical business today. They say people are trying to buy gold coins, or they're trying to sell gold rings and other gold jewelry. One profession, however, is being hurt by the gold rush. And here's more on that from Simeon Cox.
If you have gold caps or crowns in the teeth in your mouth, they're escalating in value along with all the other gold in the world. Gold is essential to dentistry. Gold is used because it's easy to shape and it's resistant to food chemicals. Last year, the University of Maryland School of Dentistry spent $120,000 on 18-karat gold chips from which they make teeth. At today's price, it would be $300,000. These increases have to be passed on to the patients. This particular crown was worth $112 when the technician left work yesterday. When he came in this morning, it was worth $130. Dentists say there's no way they can keep up with all this.
If we buy it in September of '78 at $300 an ounce and it goes up to $500 an ounce, we look very intelligent. If we buy it at $300 an ounce and it goes down to $150, they'd be looking for a new person in my position.
Are you going to put a ticker in your office?
I think we need help.
But the days of the gold cap may be very limited. It's getting to the point where some people simply can't pay the price. So they're not going to their dentist and getting their proper care. And that's why research into a substitute for gold is proceeding urgently. 90% of all gold caps are covered with porcelain to appear natural, so the color of the metal isn't important. A rather drab-looking chrome alloy is presently being field tested, and this school plans to begin using it instead of gold later this year. Gold false teeth, caps, and crowns have been found in human skulls dating back 10,000 years, and that tradition may be coming to an end. Simeon Cox, Action News.
Hey, you really didn't believe that 1 to 3 inch stuff before, did you? Nah.
Well, that's the way it initially we saw it at that point, but things are changing just a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Well, uh-oh is right.
Break out the shovels.
We're going to need the shovels. We're going to need the brooms and the scrapers because we do have the first big snowfall, or first snowfall, I should say, of the season coming into Maryland and Delaware. We'll detail that for you in just a second. Let's tell you what it's doing outside right now. Currently under mostly clear skies. The clouds have just started to roll in. We have a temperature of 30 degrees. The high today was 44. The low this morning, 34. The winds are from the west-northwest at 3 miles an hour. The relative humidity, 72%. The barometer is rising, 30.24 is the current reading. No precipitation so far. Skiing conditions, well, Snowshoe, Camelback, and Jack Frost are doing real good, as well as Round Top and Liberty. They'll be doing much better tomorrow because, as we said, snow is on the way. The latest satellite picture from space. Now, this was taken just about 15 minutes ago. You can see how that storm is progressing. This is the majority of the precipitation area right down here. Of course, here's Maryland and Delaware, so everything is still to the west and to the south of us. However, things are getting a little bit worse than what we originally anticipated, and let me show you the reason why. Again, this storm is in the formation period. It is still strengthening. It is not moving quite as fast as what I originally anticipated, which is going to help us with early morning and early afternoon. It's not going to be arriving at 10 o'clock in the morning or 12 o'clock noon. It's going to be much later on in the afternoon. The low has been tracking to the east, has now started a northeastward turn, and that means that by tomorrow afternoon, I would expect that this low pressure system is going to be right around the Norfolk, Virginia area. Instead of being south, as we originally were anticipating, it's going to be right around Virginia, North Carolina area. As it tracks in that vicinity, it's going to be pulling even more moisture off the Gulf of Mexico. Now, that's the problem when a storm starts moving slowly, as this one is, because the more time you give it to suck up that moisture, the more moisture is available to come out as rain or as snow. It's currently snowing over the northern portions of Tennessee and into Kentucky. Lexington, Kentucky, in the past 3 hours has picked up 1 inch of snow, and it looks like they're going to get some more as the evening goes on. As we said, the storm is tracking towards the north and towards the east. Then it will start a little bit of an eastward turn, laying off the coast. But down to the south, that's where the heavier snows are going to be over the mountainous areas of Virginia, down around the Norfolk, Virginia area. Washington, D.C. are going to be getting considerable more snow than what we're going to be getting. And again, it's one of those situations by how long it takes to get here, that's going to mean how much snow we're going to get out of it. We've got the potential out of this storm. I said potential, okay? Not that we're going to get, the potential of around 10 inches of snow. However, I don't think we're going to get that kind of snow activity. That is going to be just in the mountainous areas. Then, if that wasn't bad enough, we've got another storm system out in the northwest, which we're going to be seeing on Monday. As that thing comes steaming on through, it again will pick up moisture off the Gulf of Mexico and give us a chance for rain, mixed with freezing rain and snow, right here again in Maryland and Delaware on Monday. But until then, we're going to be monitoring the storm all night. I'm going to be in early tomorrow morning, take a look at this thing, try to get a little bit better handle. Of course, the closer you get to something, the better you can tell exactly what it's going to do. But it is going to be more than 1 to 3 inches. How much? Here's my forecast. We're talking about cloudy tonight. The overnight low will be 26 degrees. Here it comes. Tomorrow during the day, look for 4 to 6 inches of snow down to the south over Annapolis, D.C., the southern Delaware Peninsula, Ocean City. Look for more snow than that. 35 will be the daytime high. The snow will be ending on Saturday. Then on Sunday, the sun will come back out. However, Monday, a chance of snow again as that second system hits us, and the snow will end on Tuesday. The one saving factor that we do have, Ron, is the fact that our ground right now is quite warm, so whatever falls is going to melt very, very quickly.
Boy, I hope so, Norm. You know, we have that basic disagreement about snow. You like it, you're a skier.
Well, I don't like to drive in it.
No, well, that's true. That's
4 to 6 inches, that's the way we call it. Folks.
The way I figure for skiers, it can snow in the mountains all at once. I'll just stay out of the mountains here in the low country.
We'll be here all day tomorrow to keep you warm.
Okay, Norm, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Hope that's all we get. In just a moment, Vince Bagley will be here with all of the sports news of this day, so stay with us as Action News continues. We thought we'd give you a brief pause from television there.
That's right, before the excitement of the scores.
How are you, Vince?
We use all sort of different lead-in lines for that sort of... That happens.
It's exciting, isn't it?
Maryland won tonight. That is. Maryland beat Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's in a tough league. I want you to know. This are in the Atlantic Coast Conference, and they might be lucky to win a game. But they lost to Maryland tonight, 83-74 in Atlanta. So it's not Tobacco Road when you go to Atlanta, and Maryland won rather easily. Towson defeated Maine by 3. UMES beat Lemoyne by 5 in the Loyola College tournament, and the Greyhounds, the host team, lost by 1 to South Connecticut State. Navy beat Houston Baptist by 14, and Dave Brooks, a freshman, had 26 points for the Middies. He's a tournament MVP. He's from Lawrenceville, Illinois. He's a freshman. And Drake beat Georgetown in double overtime, 79-77. At the Capitol Center tonight, Tracy Austin defeated Chris Everett Lloyd 6-1, 6-3 to reach the semifinals of that tournament over there. Martina Navratilova won over Yvonne Gulagang 6-3, 6-2. Tracy has an impressive string against Chris, and for several reasons, really may have passed her. This is the match point in the match tonight. It may have passed her as a more dominant player. Is there a technical reason?
Yeah, I think so. I think, I can especially tell from the first few times I played her, she loves her backhand cross court really deep to everybody's, backhand or Martinez forehand, whatever. And, I think that I always used to be backing up on it because I wasn't strong enough to, lean into it. And I think I've gotten stronger now, and, it doesn't hurt me as much.
Tracy was more aggressive, although both played patiently from the baseline. Chris had to be on the move a lot more as Tracy controlled the match. Chris has won everything several times, and maybe this is the reason. She admitted that at this stage, she didn't feel as though she was tournament tough for the important points in the match, and Tracy was a little more tournament tough. This is a kind of an odd time of the year. They consider it still one of last year's tournaments, but right now, Tracy Austin is a better player than Chris Everett Lloyd. Certainly was tonight. A broken water main closed the Bowie racetrack today. They'll have it ready tomorrow, however, and they reopen at 12:30, and a new card has been drawn. The NFL playoffs on Sunday, the Rams are at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Oilers are at Pittsburgh. And the Oilers, of course, are kind of the Cinderella team, and this guy here, Vernon Perry, has really had a week. He had a blocked field goal, didn't outrun him. That was the only thing he got caught up with, but he intercepted 4 passes. Gifford Nielsen played intelligently at quarterback, except on the last few steps of this run. Gifford, get out of bounds. You're too skinny to be running into people. And now he throws the ball to Mike Renfro, and this is a 47-yard pass run play. This is a terrific play. This little guy, I love this guy, and I love these father. Ray Renfro used to play with Dub Jones, who's Bert's father when he played for the Colts. So go get him Sunday, somebody. The Steelers give Terry Bradshaw all the time in the world. It's the best protection in the league. And he has a great arm. He can throw flat-footed as he did there. Watch Neil Colsey and everybody else. That's a stiff arm like Sugar Ray Leonard's jab. That's stalwart going in for the score. And what a terrific bunch of receivers this club has. Houston uses a 3-4 defense. They're going to have to get to Bradshaw, and if they get to him, they got to tackle him as Miami failed to do there. And, of course, then there's Franco Harris. In the 3-4, you try to stop him on first down and make it a long, force him to pass situation on second down. That's the reason for the 3-4. But again, on the 3-4, you don't get a big pass rush. And against Pittsburgh, you have to stop them on first. You have to get a good pass rush, and you have to pray. to pray a lot that you survive. The AFC Rookie of the Year is Jerry Butler, one of the little guys who has survived, a great little player from Clemson, and he's the first wide receiver to win this award. He got 36 of the 58 votes cast. Jim Haslett was second with 11, and Bob Grupp, the punter from Duke, who led the league. They didn't all look great, but he got the ball on the roll on that AstroTurf, and a lot of time 43.6 average is not too shabby. He had 4 votes. And Willie Wood is the new coach of the Toronto Argonauts, and I want to tell you a story about Willie Wood tomorrow night because I don't have time now. But my first remembrance of Willie Wood, the great Green Bay Packer back, who was in a lot of Super Bowls and just did a lot of things, the new coach of Toronto. I have a good story I'll tell you tomorrow night. Ken Brandt bowled 300 tonight at Glen Burnie Bowl America, and that's the first time in 12 years. Ken Brandt, a terrific, perfect 300 game.
Can't do any better. Thank you, Vince.
Fun being here.
The king of movie thrillers is now a member of England's royal community. Director Alfred Hitchcock, who is 80 and who scared millions of movie fans with films like Psycho and The Birds, has been granted knighthood by Queen Elizabeth. At a news conference in Hollywood today, he gave reporters a rare chance to interview him, and Sir Alfred didn't let them down.
Why do you think it took so long for the Queen to bestow this honor on you when others didn't take so long?
I suppose it was a matter of carelessness.
Alfred, will this change any of the relationship you have with your wife, being knighted?
I hope so.
Well, how much time do we have? Do we? Oh, we say good night now? Okay, the storm will start tomorrow at 4 o'clock?
Around that 4 o'clock.
Okay. Good night.
This has been a presentation of Action News.